It tastes like a spicy strawberry margarita. That is silly. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my kitchen, and today on Seed to Plate, I am inviting you in to my crazy ideas that I try and make a reality. So hopefully these turn out really good. I had this idea, I made this, I call it strawberry margarita jam. I'll leave the link to that video below. Unfortunately, the recipe for this jam is, I couldn't find it online. It's only in the Ball Canning cookbook, which I'll leave a link to that below as well. So this is actually a strawberry jam that's made with tequila and agave, and it's actually a low sugar jam because it's made with agave and not sugar. So I made this a couple of days ago, and because it had tequila and strawberries, I naturally thought of a strawberry margarita. So I today will be attempting to make mini strawberry margarita cakes. And to top that off even more, I was talking to one of my coworkers about it because these are the things I discuss. And he said, what happens if you would try and make it a spicy strawberry margarita cake? And I said, my mind has been blown. So this is pepper jelly that I made from last year. Again, if I can find a recipe, I'll leave it below. If not, the recipe I use is in the Ball Canning jar cookbook. But pepper jelly is something I always make at the end of the season when I've completely harvested all my peppers, and quite frankly, I'm over preserving peppers or I'm overeating them. I'm just done with it. So I will make pepper jelly. And this is one of my favorite things to take to parties, to take to potlucks. You can put it over cream cheese. People go crazy over it. So we're gonna try this together today. Hopefully it all works out. I'm working off of a very basic lemon cake recipe that I am using lime juice instead of lemon. The other thing to note about this recipe is I am gluten-free because I have celiac. So I am using gluten-free flour for this. I am not sure how this would work out with regular flour. The recipe that I'm referencing uses regular flour, so I think it'll be totally fine for regular flour, but if one of you wants to try it out and let me know how it goes, I would love your feedback on that. So let's go ahead and get started. So first up, I am getting a whole stick of butter, half a cup of butter. With that half a cup of butter, we are going to whip in a whole cup of sugar. Now, one of the biggest baking tips that I ever got that has been really impactful to my baking is to really whip your sugar and your butter, or your fat and your sugar together, and really get them very emulsified, because the more emulsified you get that fat and that sugar, the more it won't leak out and you'll have a very complete solid product. So when I say fully emulsified, I mean this. Super fluffy. My butter wasn't totally as softened as it should have been, but this is what I'm talking about. Next are gonna be our eggs, and the biggest thing I want you to do when you're cracking eggs into any baked good is put them in a separate container. The reason you do that is A, if you've ever gotten a rotten egg, it's one of the worst things ever, and if you put a rotten egg in here, you're starting over. The other thing is shells. If you put that shell right in here, it's gonna be a lot harder to get out. So I always do it in a totally separate container, and it has saved me so many times. So we're gonna beat in our eggs, and when we beat in the eggs, I want you to beat them in really, really good, because we are adding acid to this in the form of lime juice. And when you add acid to either cream or eggs, you can get some kind of weird funky textures. So let me show you exactly what I want this to look like. This is what I want it to look like. I basically want it to look like kind of thin cake batter. Okay, so now we need our lime juice and our lime zest. Now, I highly recommend getting one of these microplanes. I use this thing all the time for so many things, even just like finish something with cheese. Highly, highly recommend. So we need 2 tablespoons of lime zest, and then we need 4 tablespoons of lime juice. Okay, so that's about 2 tablespoons of zest. Another pro tip, whenever you are going to juice limes, I want you to take it on the counter and roll it, like put your shoulder muscles into it, because you're gonna really get those juices flowing. I think a lot of the times we get like dry limes and they get tough, but if you just put a little muscle into it, you will probably be just fine. Also, this juicer has a little bit of a funny story. My fiance loves key lime pie, and I make him a key lime pie every year for his birthday. And I, for the longest time, did not have a juicer like this. And so I was talking to his mom. Hi, Bonnie, if you're watching this. I was talking to his mom and telling her, I was like, oh, it's such a labor of love. I juice all these teeny tiny key limes by hand, and we were all kind of laughing about it. And then a week later, this showed up in our mailbox. So it was really, really funny. And now I think of that every time I use this little juicer. Okay, so I think for me, with how juicy these limes are, I think it's gonna take me 4 limes. It might take you more depending on the quality of the limes that you get. We live in Texas, so we usually get pretty solid limes. So we have our lime zest and our lime juice. For this, I'm actually gonna have the mixer going while I'm dumping it in, so we don't end up with any kind of weird curdling. It smells pretty limey. This is not going to be a lightly lime flavor. This is going to be a flavor punch because it's supposed to be a margarita. Okay, y'all, now this probably sounds crazy, but I do not subscribe to the idea of like sifting your ingredients. The only time I do that is if I'm making something chocolate, because you don't want lumps. But other than that, I'm just gonna dump everything in here for the dry ingredients. So we're gonna have 1.5 cups of flour. Yes, I am mixing my gluten-free flours. I don't follow a lot of rules in the kitchen that you're supposed to follow. We're gonna do 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Now, a lot of cake recipes only use baking powder. I prefer to use both because there's some science behind it having a double rise. And with gluten-free things, you already have an issue with texture. They tend to be a little thicker. So I'm trying to give myself all the chances I can to have a nice light and fluffy cake. Also, always salt to balance everything out. Now I'm actually thinking, because this is supposed to be a margarita, I'm kind of trying to think about like a glaze that might make sense, that has like some salt, but we'll get there. I haven't figured it out yet. Okay, so we're gonna mix the dry ingredients. Now, the next ingredient that I actually didn't have a direct correlation from the recipe, but we're just gonna improvise. The recipe that I was going off of had 1/2 cup of buttermilk. I'm actually gonna use yogurt. This is a Bulgarian probiotic yogurt that's made here in Austin, Texas, and it's not sweet at all. And it's pretty liquidy. This is some of the only yogurt that I can actually eat. I can be sensitive to dairy, but this doesn't seem to bother me. Oh, and then I forgot to add vanilla. It's a teaspoon, but I feel like add as much vanilla as your heart desires. Now, one thing I'm gonna do that may be considered like a mortal sin is add some food coloring. So I get this no artificial dye Watkins food coloring. I'm just gonna add a little bit, mostly because in my head, I have this idea that the cake is like this very light green color, and then you have like these little streaks of strawberry jam and pepper jelly. So we're just gonna add a couple drops, nothing crazy, just to kind of get us that moment. So if you don't want to add the food coloring, that's totally fine. This is what it looks like without it. It is going to be a little bit of a lighter cake, but there's just something in my head that I just want this to be just the palest green color. I think honestly that will bake up a nice little green color. So next we need to assemble these things. All right guys, you want to grease your pan. I am using cooking spray. Use whatever the spirits compel you to. And don't talk to me about it in my comments. Love you. Okay, y'all, underrated baking tool are these ice cream scoops. I use these all the time. So I have this mini loaf pan, and my plan right now is to scoop 2 scoops into the bottom of this and kind of spread it a little bit, and then do a layer of the jam in the middle and then cover it. I'm gonna set you up at a different camera angle so you can see what I'm doing. So here's our strawberry agave jam. Pop this. Oh my gosh, y'all, it smells so good. And we're just gonna take a couple little dollops. And then I should have a toothpick to do this, but I don't. So I'm just gonna take my knife and kind of swirl it around. Okay, now I'm gonna do half of these like this, and I'm gonna do the other half with the pepper jelly. So let me show you what I'm gonna do there. Pop top. Woo! So I'm just gonna put a little bit of this. It's not super spicy. And then we'll, again, take our knife, swirl, 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 mix her in a little bit, and we're good to go. So I'm gonna get the rest of these filled and we're gonna throw them in the oven for an undetermined amount of time. I'll let you know when they're baked. Okay, y'all, we're out of the oven. It took about 18 minutes for these to bake. They're not looking stellar, but let's do a taste test. Also, while they were baking, I had an idea for like a little icing situation. So here's what we're gonna do for our icing. We're gonna take the juice of a lime, a teeny tiny splash of tequila, and some powdered sugar. And I'm not actually going to ice these because they're still pretty warm. I just wanna taste it to see if this is a good idea or if this is just really silly. It's almost noon on a Sunday. You can have a little tequila. Just like the tiniest bit. You don't want to like knock your world apart. That was like maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon, maybe. And I want it to be pretty thick. Ooh. Okay, it does smell like tequila, but like not in the bad way. Like I'm talking that thick. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We gotta pop a couple of these out. Now I am just being wildly impatient and not letting these cool. So some of the jammy parts definitely stuck and I definitely overfilled them. Okay, so here's the spicy one. And we came out in one piece, so that's good news. Well, I wanna cut it in half and see how it came out. Oh, it's good. Yeah, once that cools, that's gonna be really tasty. So look at the texture. And this is still pretty warm. So once this gets cooled, we're in business. So I'm just gonna make myself a little bite. And I'm gonna take a piece. We're gonna do a little drizz of our special little icing. And then I just want like the slightest hit of salt. We're talking like a couple of granules. It tastes like a spicy strawberry margarita. That is silly. Oh my God. Okay, let's try this again. I do like the slight hit of tequila in the frosting and the little bit of salt. Oh my God. Okay, let's try just the regular strawberry one without the spicy, but the spicy's really good. I didn't think I was gonna like that one. My mouth is literally watering. I didn't think I was gonna like that one, but it's really tasty. So let's try the just regular one. Yeah, wow, oh my gosh, look at that one. If somebody says gluten-free desserts are bad, and they're dense and dry, you just show them this video. Y'all, I'm out. Look at that crumb. Okay. Make ourselves a tasty little bite. Oh my God. I don't understand how my brain works either, but it's really delicious is how it does work. So I'm gonna leave this recipe down in the description box. If you give it a try, let me know what you think. If you have issues, let me know. I literally came up with this off the cuff today. So thanks so much for hanging out with me in my kitchen today. I don't think I should finish this, but you know, there's a decent chance I do. Thanks so much for watching. Happy gardening, happy cooking, happy baking, happy time doing whatever brings you joy. We'll see you next time.